Okay, we had so much fun with the Admiral Junker radio and thought we'd move on to Junker radio number 2. And just to recap, this is part of a lot of radios that one of the flea market vendors brought me that he wants repaired. I think he thinks he can make a bunch of money off of these things, but like I said in the Admiral video, if these radios were all properly restored, he'd end up losing his rear end on the cost. But anyway, just like with the Admiral, I'm going to do as little to this as I have to get it going. And we have our helper here in the shop today, which is this 1960s heater. It's keeping me warm. Yeah, fire hazard, I know. But anyway, this radio here is not in quite as bad a shape as the Admiral. It's actually one that if it were mine, I might actually do a full restoration on it. This is a Detrola from probably the mid to late 40s in a metal case. Of course, it needs to be sanded down and repainted. We're missing a couple of knobs. This set actually has standard broadcast and shortwave. Here's our what appears to be our antenna wrapped up here. Okay, let's just fire this thing up and see what happens. Not really the correct procedure, but who cares at this point. Okay, I'm hearing a little bit of static, no filter hum. Okay, this one actually has a little bit of reception. Let's uncoil the antenna wire and see what we get.
Where in time? Tonight
see, there it is on a local station.
March 25th, 1996.
Well, I don't think this one's going to need much. The switch is dirty. I noticed the power cord has some cracks in it, but
now, Prime Minister John Major
this one's probably not going to need as much as the Admiral needed. Okay, let's open it up and check it out. Okay, here's the chassis. As you can see, much more substantial than what's in that little Admiral set that we finished up with. This particular one uses the good IF transformers that have variable trimmer capacitors. Actually, they do have a mica sheet in them, but these don't give problems like the newer style IF transformers with the fixed mica capacitors and variable inductor. In fact, these rarely ever give problems. We have 5 octal tubes here. We have a field coil type speaker, electrodynamic speaker. This is our original filter capacitor that is obviously still working. And under the chassis, it looks like we have all of our original paper capacitors. Now, if I was restoring this set for myself, all of those capacitors would get replaced, but since this guy basically wants these things just to be operational as cheaply as possible from what I gather, then that's all we're going to do to these, just as little as we have to do to get them to play. Because like I said in the Admiral video, the chances of him actually selling any of these radios, especially given the cosmetic condition, is slim to none, especially in my area. They'll probably just sit on his shelf at the flea market for 5 years, and then I'll probably wind up with them again. Okay, let's spray the switch, band switch, and volume controls with control cleaner. Replace this crackling power cord with something that's a little bit safer. And then we'll call this one done, hopefully. Okay, we sprayed our volume control and band switch. Got rid of the intermittent problems, but our reception is a little weak. Now, right now I'm going to peak the trimmers on the IF transformers and the RF trimmer on the tuning condenser. See if that'll perk it up a little bit.
It's a game that is dominated by defenses. You cannot give up field position in those stumps or move it in those stumps. So that's two against the defense, one against the offense. So you're running uphill at this point. And that one against the offense directly cost them a shot at 3 points. Instead of a field goal, forcing out a field goal range and they had to punt. First and 10 at the 36-yard line. 2:40 remaining first half. Carolina down 14-6. Earlier in the game when he took it up the middle, this time trying to go left and just go right.
Okay, that's about as good as we can get it.
Great. Would stage this here in Chicago when all of those movies were...
31022. Power project.
The sensitivity seems to be okay. It's just the audio that's a little weaker than it should be.
In our neighborhood, and all the families from...
Now that's Powerhouse heavily modulated 1390 coming in there. Okay, we'll start off by checking some voltages on the audio output tube. We'll start at the control grid here. Make sure we're not seeing a positive voltage here, because if we are, that indicates this capacitor is leaky, or we have a gassy audio output tube. So we'll let the set warm up, and then we'll measure that voltage.
32.
Okay, we're getting about
As a retired teacher,
between 3.5 and 4 volts on this control grid, so I'd say this capacitor is
Medicare plans change each
leaky.
year. Fortunately, my health...
Okay, replacing that capacitor helped our audio quality. We're also not getting a positive voltage there now. Another capacitor that's a high failure item is this tone capacitor here. One side connects to the plate of the audio output tube. The other side connects to ground. And its main purpose is to, well, it actually has two purposes: to sort of filter out any possible RF that might actually make its way to the plate of the output tube. And it's also there to improve the tonal quality of the set, as in filtering out the extremely high frequencies so the radio doesn't sound so shrill. And if that cap shorts, it can cause parts in the power supply to burn up, i.e. the rectifier tube. It can ruin the audio output tube as well as the audio output transformer. Testing our plate voltage, we have about 94 volts, which is not too far off, but if this capacitor were leaky, it could drag some of the B+ voltage to ground. Just for the heck of it, let's take this capacitor loose and see what our voltage jumps up to, if it jumps up at all. And there it is with the cap disconnected. Might sound a little more bright now than it did before, but our B+ voltage is about the same, so that capacitor is obviously not that bad leaky and dragging the voltage down. Okay, this plastic-cased mica bomb capacitor that's across the AC power line is getting a little warm to the touch, which means it's leaky, and we'll go ahead and replace that so it won't go boom on the guy. Okay, we have a Detrola radio put back together. I replaced the power cord, replaced the AC line bypass capacitor, the audio coupling capacitor, went ahead and replaced the tone capacitor on the output tube, just since that's a high failure part. And there was a capacitor in a bypass cap in the B+ circuit that I replaced, just because it's high failure. Here's our mica bomb capacitor that was across the AC line. As you can see, it's already eaten too much and it's about to explode.
First 5 years of a car's life. Alec Gutierrez, Senior Market Analyst, Automotive Insights.
Let's turn this light off.
The fuel costs may be the greatest expense incurred in owning a vehicle. We also take into consideration finance and insurance fees, maintenance and...
There's 670, so that tells us that this radio is up to par as far as sensitivity is concerned.
Rush Limbaugh Show returns on WALD News Talk 102.1 FM, 9:10 a.m.
And back to the phones we go. This is...
too bad they don't play that kind of music all the time.
Did some stand-up, and so, you know,
Getting so about the only time you hear music like that on AM is the intro to a talk program. There's another station. I think that's a talk station about 90 miles away.
The reason ain't got no power because the preacher ain't got no power. The reason your preacher ain't got no power because you don't believe in what he's been preaching, what he's preaching. You don't believe a word of what the Bible says. Amen.
There's our hole in the wall, R&B, soul, whatever, oldie station that also runs religious programming and what I call propaganda programming. Nice way of putting it.
He's going to open up your eyes because you so...
101 FM WMER.
The singing surgeon, Dr. Jim Matthews. How you doing, sir?
Fine. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. Great to see you today. And I understand you have a big selection of the best in gospel music at booth 108 at the Atrium Mall.
Right. We got Southern Gospel CDs, DVDs, some contemporary gospel, religious books. We got secular books. We got secular DVDs. We got children CDs, DVDs.
Stuff for the kiddos. I mean, it's kind of like a one-stop shop.
That's what it is, man.
That's the way it's supposed to be, right?
Amen, brother.
And it's all right there at the Atrium Mall, and it's booth 108.
That's right, right by Mugshots. The DVDs are 1 for 16, 3 for 45. CDs 1 for 10, 3 for 25. I just appreciate WMER and the good job you do. Good job you do, Ken.
Well, hey, we appreciate you too, Dr. Jim.
Thank you very much.
The signature of the singing surgeon, Dr. Jim Matthews. All righty, you heard it from the man himself, the singing surgeon, Dr. Jim Matthews.
There's the black gospel station. Just for the heck of it, let's see if we can get anything on shortwave. There's WWV, so...
Somebody mentioned that somebody that had to do with the TWA 800.
Saints, what is the breadth and length and...
Even shortwave is not as interesting as it was, say, 20 or 25 years ago.
The words of two words is silver trying in a...
This thing's doing pretty good on shortwave considering the time of day it is.
When the wireless man...
I remember my first experience with shortwave was back around 1989, maybe early 1990. I was 12 or 13 years old, and I bought a Zenith Royal 3000 solid state transoceanic from an older guy for, I think I gave him $35 for it. and the radio was in mint condition. And after a few years, it stopped working, and at the time, I didn't have sense enough to repair it, so I sold it to somebody else. I'm wishing now I would have kept that radio, because I swear everything that guy had was in mint shape. I think he even waxed his lawnmower every time he cut the grass with it.
Military rules. So, Mr. Allen...
Good story, huh? The Mayor City came out to sign it.
Okay, well, as you can tell, this radio works decent enough. I just got to find a couple of knobs to put on it. So that's 2 radios out of the trash pile that are ready for him to put on the shelf at the flea market. I guess while we have a couple more minutes, I'll show you the remaining radios, show you what we'll be working on in the future. Here's a little Philco Transitone that was a victim of crash and bash. You can see where they tried to glue the cabinet back together. I mean, that adds a nice nostalgic touch to the radio. Lots of masking tape here. And lots of masking tape on that side. So yeah, this thing really got crashed. It's a shame because those are decent little radios when they're working correctly, but they're still common enough that it wouldn't be worth trying to restore the cabinet on that one. And next we have this Philco farm radio, meaning it's a battery operated set, runs off of a 1.5 volt battery for the tube filaments and a 90 volt battery for the B+ voltage. I think this is a 40 or 41 model, not a very commonly seen set, and probably not that much wrong with it, but you know, it would entail building a battery pack or a power supply for this thing, and that would run more than he's probably going to want to spend, so that one's probably not going to be repaired. In fact, here's the battery pack that was inside of the radio, a Western Auto Wizard brand battery, probably from the 1950s. Here's a Crosley from the early 50s. Now, it's a shame this one's in kind of beat up shape. As you can see, it's missing all the knobs, because these radios here usually sell for pretty decent money whenever they're restored, but I don't really know if this one's even worth fooling with. Sure, I could find some knobs, but since this is such a collectible radio, the question would be, how much would the knobs cost? And the last radio is this Philco that's in dire need of a repaint job, also missing its knobs, and has this very safe UL approved power cord on it. So yep, we'll get started on these radios and just see what's up with them. Alright, that's about all I've got for this video. Thanks for watching, and more to come later.